Welcome everybody. My name is Rob Duvall and welcome to UnFiltered. This is the show where we actually take really hot button topics and talk about them openly so we can actually have a discussion, unlike Facebook where it's a one-sided conversation. So hopefully we'll learn something from each other tonight, and I'm going to never say what my opinion is. I'm going to give you lots of my opinion, but I want everyone to speak frankly. So first of all, I'm going to introduce my panel. First of all, Dave O'Connell from Bang Creative, the award-winning Bang Creative. Thanks so much for being here, my friend. It's good to see you. Chantel, thanks very much for being here.
Thanks, Rob.
I've known you for quite a few years, and it's great to have you on the show. So hopefully we're going to see your perspective on our topic tonight. And Nelson, thank you very much for jumping in last minute. We've had to move some things around, but you've been a star.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you very much for being here. So first of all, how about Nelson? I'm just going to start with you, just so that you can let us know a little bit about what it is that you do in your company.
Sure. I own Culture Rising. We're a 4-store franchise in Ontario. We got locations in Milton, Streetsville, Port Credit, and Brampton. I started the company in 2006 with a single location. We started franchising in 2012, opened the Port Credit location, then Milton the next year, and Brampton the next year. We specialize in cannabis accessories, specifically a higher end kind of quality product, mostly made by Canadian artists, or American artists as well to some extent. So fancy bongs and high-end vaporizers.
Well, you know, and now here we are, you know, with legalized cannabis, finally getting into the retail side of things. But in my opinion, it's been an absolute disaster. So I'm going to come back to you, Chantel. What about yourself? Just give us a quick rundown.
Oh gosh, okay. So many different things, obviously, with the new legalization of marijuana. I'm a supporter, a user, and supporter for all kinds of reasons, not just, you know, for recreational. I'm glad that it's there and available if you're not a wine drinker or an alcohol drinker, but also really supportive on the other medical benefits that are not necessarily just giving out prescriptions like they previously were with medical weed. Yeah.
Right.
So
Fantastic.
Lots of benefits coming up.
Yeah, and it's hard to get people to actually admit to that. I mean, everybody still feels it's somewhat taboo, and it is, and they don't have, people don't drink.
Yeah.
They don't have to take any type of cannabis product either.
Yep.
So it's not something that anyone's making you do, in my opinion.
Of course.
It's something that basically it's an individual choice, and there are other products out there. But we'll get into, you know, that whole issue as well. So Dave, yourself, I know everything about you, but people don't know anything about you.
Well,
so.
what do you want to know?
Everything. Give it to me. We only have 2 minutes for your intro.
Okay, well, I'm David O'Connell. I run Bang Creative, a marketing firm here in town. We focus on branding companies and helping companies grow. I'll sit as the vice chair in the Milton DBIA, and as you know, heavily involved in the community. And as you alluded to, award-winning and all that, blah, blah, blah.
Give you a selfish plug there.
You know,
for him.
I'm just a guy who's seeing it from a marketing perspective, seeing what the government's doing, what is going on, what our friends, my friends since high school, have done.
Yeah.
So it's quite an interesting shift in momentum and what is out there available.
Well, yeah, and it's not the same thing, really, and that's where I wanted to kind of go to first. It's not the same thing that we used to see years ago, where it was the underground head shop, so to speak, where it was a dungeon, it was awful looking. Now it's more boutique. Taking a look at some of the ones that were in downtown Toronto opening up, there's a lot of money that was sunk into those. Now, there's some that nothing was done. That's where their branding could use definitely some help, because I think those will fail. I think we're seeing them come out. If they're not going to sink their money in, if they don't make it comfortable for the average person to go in, and if it looks, you know, yucky, they're just not going to go. What are you finding with your clients?
Well, they're pretty unimpressed with what's available. Both having to wait outside because this limited entry, 4 people in the store at a time, even though there's nothing to steal. The quality of the product has been, I guess we all kind of knew it was going to be not the greatest. We get the leftovers from the growers who are primarily producing for medical. They don't even cure the product is the problem. You know, you open this fancy overpackaged jar and it smells like hay. That's not what you're expecting. And it's a little bit anticlimactic.
Yes.
There is a lot of money sunk into some of them. It's venture capital. It's outside money that's going to try and get the most out of it as possible, which doesn't necessarily translate to a good experience for the shopper or for Canadians in general.
Right, right.
You know, there's nothing to do with the community going on in the cannabis industry where it could have been. There's lots of those underground head shops that would have done a really good job at responsibly selling the product, but we're excluded.
Right. Well, the whole lottery thing didn't make a lot of sense to me. I mean, nice idea, but you could have just had a lot of money and said, well, I'm going to throw my name in a hat, and then you're chosen.
Yeah.
But a lot of these places haven't even opened yet, which is another big problem. They're getting dinged thousands of dollars a day.
Yeah.
Like, you know, just to go on some of those, I mean, there was one that just opened yesterday. They were supposed to be open by April 1st, so that would have been easily, I'm thinking $25,000 in you know, late fees, so to speak.
Yeah, by the 15th.
Yeah, yeah. So that to me is absolutely ridiculous. What are you finding on your end in the downtown core? Because your business runs out of the downtown core. What I didn't understand, and I think it's absolutely insanity for these people to do it, and that's why, you know, the political side of it, they have to really start looking at what that downtown core does, because we're watching retail die before our very eyes. With Amazon coming in, I know that when I was sitting on council, we had to get the zoning changed, which was absolutely crazy having those empty stores there, only because they didn't want to have non-retail go into those stores. I personally would have just loved to have seen them filled. So here we have some hookah shops downtown, and yet we're not allowing the retail cannabis to be sold. To me, it's absolute insanity. It doesn't make sense. So what do you think about that?
Like, you know, any good business, strong business that are growing, it's important to have, right? Retail is on a decline. Well, in certain cases, it's definitely in a shift right now. We've seen it across all markets. That there is a massive shift in retail. So the small shops, the stores are becoming, you know, a little more vacant, more difficult to get to. Malls are starting to die, but there's a lot of things that are going on as people shift to online. Right. From what you alluded to on the piece about shifting the zoning area, that was really important and key for us, because we saw that there was a lot of change going on in our own downtown and other downtowns in the region that we've that, you know, there is a culture shift that is happening. Right. And for council, to anybody that stops any kind of legal business, I think is kind of anti-productive to any small business and for the community in general.
The problem is when you get government involved in anything, they screw it up. They just rip it apart and wreck it. Like, you know, the one thing that they don't know how to do is make money. I think we can all agree probably on that situation here. They're a money sucker, not a money giver. So, you know, maybe they need to try some of the product. I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is, but they probably would be a lot more interesting. But, you know, at the end of the day, if you don't fill those spots, it will demise those cores. Now, I'm not saying, oh, you know, opening up retail cannabis would have saved the downtown. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that there's like this idea of people who use cannabis products are just there to cause trouble. And then I look at someone like you who's a professional, and it's like, no. I've seen people that are 70 years old going, you know what? I heard a lady the other day, it was so funny in the States, going, I'm a Republican and I light up every morning. It was like, she called it, it's like, I start with that and I voted Trump, which is, you know, it's not the type of person you would think that would do that.
Yes.
It's like, wow, really? Okay, you know.
I think also too, on talking about the retail sort of version of that, they're sort of cutting off their nose to spite their face. They're not tapping into that sort of next generation of consumers. If you want people out and about, and I'm not necessarily suggesting, you know, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but you can get, you know, my age group, or even that sort of, you know, older age group where we're coming out at night. We're going to go down and grab our stuff, and then maybe we're going to go grab a bite to eat, and maybe we're going to stop in that shop that's got, you know, a sidewalk sale going on. In a smaller community, when you have a downtown environment, you have to sort of tap into all those who are in your community. And not giving them that option is going to send them to outside venues. And aren't we trying to develop a community where that's actually staying in our area and purchasing? I'm actually not a retail shopper, an online shopper.
Right.
I don't even actually think about it. When I think about going for stuff, I think about going within my area, going to the local business or going to the local mall, small.
Sure.
I don't shop on Amazon. That's just not how I am. I know that it's changing, but I still think there's a way to get people like myself, young families, the parents of the young families coming down to the consumer spots, and then maybe having dinner, you know?
Yeah, and I have it here. You know, you talked about the age group, right? So we're all getting older, but I have it here.
You are.
Yeah, thank you very much. They actually have, it's amazing, the amount of cannabis users aren't the young people.
That's correct.
It's the older generation. It's the 30s and 40s and 50s. They're
Yeah.
the ones that thought it was taboo all this time, and it's like, wow, now I can let it all out.
The
I
soccer
can go out and
mom
get my
is,
weed.
you know,
Yeah.
The more that we talk about it, the more we have these conversations, the more we realize that it's not the people trying to cause trouble who are, in fact, it's the exact opposite. I was mentioning